What's up, everyone? Arjun here. It's late, busy day, but today I'm talking about harnessing your sexual energy. And I have a number of different topics that I'm going to discuss regarding this topic. So, whenever you get a thought or a feeling, you're actually tuning into something different. You think, oh, I want McDonald's, so I want Jack in the Box. But what you're actually doing is tuning into your brain and your evolution saying that it wants to be fed. That's pretty obvious. But think about how this applies in a sexual context. When you get a thought, oh, and I'm trying to go, see this bad girl right now, I'm trying to do XYZ. Maybe that's not you putting that thought into your brain, but it's actually just some sort of frequency or something passing through. And so that's important to think about as we get into these subsequent topics. All right, so given that your thoughts might be passing through in their different vibrations and different frequencies that you might be tuned into and listening to, you have to make sure that you tune into the right ones and that you be selective of the energies and the thoughts that you accept into your head. Now, every sexual encounter that you partake in, that you are a member in, creates something that can be referred to as a soul tie that attaches you to the other person involved in this act. So whatever demons or history or energy that person was carrying, you just took them all in through the act of sexual intercourse. And it's like they say in the Bible, when man and woman come together for the act of procreation for sex, they become one. Their mind, body, and soul become united. Their two bodies become one. So people take this act so seriously and carelessly, but it's actually much deeper than that, especially for women. And I'll get into that in a little bit. And there's a lot of stuff that you can't see. You can't see the whole spectrum of light. You can only see this much, and the light spectrum is like this. So I think you get what I'm saying. That's why it's really important to understand this type of stuff. Now, biology and evolution plays but it plays a significant role here. Men versus women, their abilities and their roles in ancestral society. So men have the ability, men create hundreds and hundreds of millions of sperm. Women create one egg per month. Now, evolutionarily, what does that show you? It shows you that men have the capability to reproduce an immense amount, whereas women are limited. And that means that can be taken and that can show in a way that sex is a much more momentous event for a woman than it is for a man, because a woman would have to carry a child for 9 months. They would have to spend resources on that. They would have the evolutionary responsibility of that child, whereas a man is mobile. He's always producing these elements of reproduction, etc. I think you get the point. And that's why, when you see women in today's society versus men, and you see feminism and things like this, it's important to think about the differences in our biology and evolution, especially when it comes to sex and reproduction and, dating, all these type of things, because sex can be a lot more of a meaningful thing to a woman, and so it must be treated with more respect. Now, the dangers of overindulging in sex. So this is something that affects both men and women, but if maybe you've been in school, I know I've heard this, seen this, etc., where women will be having anxiety, depression, panic attacks, the whole nine, and you look at their life and you look at what's going on, and it's like they're sort of all over the place. Random casual sexual encounters, you know, sleeping with one person, another person, one night stand, blah, blah, blah. You get the point. And there's so much energy circulating in their body. There's other people's energies. They're not unified in themselves. They have a lot of stuff mixing up inside them. Their head's not straight. That's why they might just break down crying all of a sudden in the middle of class, because there's so much stuff going on in their head, because these encounters are much more significant than they had originally perceived when they began to engage in them. And the woman in question may not even understand that. She might just think, oh my God, why is this happening to me? You know, what's wrong with me? But if you step back and you think about it in terms of her actions and what she was involved with, and maybe the people involved, then you'll start to get clarity on, why she might be feeling this way and undergoing these disorders or conditions. But it's actually just a product of her environment and of her actions. Now, the same thing is true for men, although it might affect them in a different way. Overindulgence in sexual pursuits, whether it's, self-stimulation or even with another partner or multiple partners. If you go into a classroom, or you go into a coffee shop maybe, or you're just walking on the street, just keep it really simple, you'll see guys who their gaze is on the floor. If you greet them, they won't look you in the eye. If you shake their hand, their gaze is not strong. They don't have energy. They don't have vitality within them. They don't have a fire behind their eyes. And I think anyone watching this understands how that looks when you see someone and you can tell that they're just weak. They don't have primal energy. They don't have a source in them. And that's really what a man's seed is. It is a life source. And so when you retain the source of life inside of a man, there's the ability to create a new life, just as there is in a woman. And so when you keep that life inside of you and you're not always spilling it and the energy that comes with that, then you begin to increase the energy level within yourself. And this is also true for women. That's why athletes don't engage in sexual activity, 6 weeks before a fight or before a big game. There's a reason for that. Some people might think it's placebo. Some people might say, oh, there's no reason that we used to do that. But there actually is. And if you're doubting this, you have nothing to lose. Just try it for a week, try it for 10 days. See how you feel. See how much more confidence you have. A lot of men these days suffer from low testosterone. Their voice is really high-pitched and feminine. A lot of guys have social anxiety. They can't go up and speak. I used to have all of those problems. I used to be anxious. I couldn't even look a teacher in the eye and talk to my own teacher and ask them a question because I had anxiety. I wasn't confident within myself. So once I started to focus on myself, cultivating my energy and actually retaining the life force that was already inside of me, I started to fix my life. Things just started to fall into place. I would meet people and I would just flow. Things would just be flowing naturally. I wouldn't have approach anxiety going up to a beautiful girl and talking to her. I just do it. And that's something big that comes with harnessing your sexual energy, which is exactly what this whole video is about. And it's extremely simple to do, but it's not easy. Things can be simple, but they're not easy. Easy choice, hard life. Hard choice, easy life. So think about that as we move forward with this video. Another interesting aside as we talk about this is how a lot of people feel, in reaction to hearing about this topic and about hearing about controlling their sexuality. Someone told me that they're afraid of harnessing and controlling their sexual energy because they may not want to feel caged. Now, I thought this was interesting. Another way to say that an animal or a person is caged is to say that their back is up against the wall. But when your back is up against a wall as a fighter, that's when you can be fighting at your strongest because you have a framework to maneuver within. You have constraints. You have two walls and a corner that are constraining you. And that may feel like the wall is against you. But if you look at it differently, that can advantage you. It can be in your favor if you use it correctly. A fighter can use the corner as cover and he can attack out of the hole. Since he doesn't have to cover his backside, he can go full force, straight towards the problem, straight towards the fight, and only focus on what's directly in front of him. The same thing goes for your sexual energy. You finally realize that you may have been destroying yourself. If you're a man, constantly spilling your seed. If you're a woman, by constantly opening yourself up to maybe different people, casually, non-committedly. And this is not negatively speaking about anyone or the way that anyone is living their life. This is judgment-free, but I'm just sharing my perspective and my experience about this topic with the hopes that people can derive benefit and utility from it. So if you finally realize that you're destroying yourself and you put yourself in a constraint, you put yourself in a cage, or you put yourself up against a wall in a corner, whatever you want to call it, celibacy, retention of your sexual energy, then just like a fighter who's up against the wall in the corner, you can maneuver within that framework. So once you're in that position in the corner, you can maneuver within that framework. You can keep your eyes on the fight that's directly in front of you. Whether that's business, whether that is a relationship, whether that's you trying to find your purpose in life, or whether that's you focus on healing your mind, body, and soul, getting a better physique, whatever the case may be. So that's another way to look at this type of topic when you think about harnessing or controlling your sexual energy. Instead of a negative control, you can think about it as an opportunity for focus and for growth, because you don't have to feel like you're caged in, but rather being caged in or cornered is an opportunity for you to go full force in a direction that you know you should focus on. So with all of that being said, what can you do as a person watching this video? For men, refrain from ejaculation and potentially refrain from sexual intercourse as a whole. There's levels to this. First, a guy might not stimulate himself, because in my opinion, that's the worst form of sexual indulgence, is when you're just doing that to yourself. It feels like you're destroying yourself and you're giving up energy with no purpose, with no goal. Another level to it is completely cutting out sexuality out of your life. Now, some people can do that. Monks do that. Monks take a vow of celibacy, but that's pretty intense for most people. So when most people do this, they just decide to not stimulate themselves at all, which is, like I said, no judgment. Everyone's going to live how they want to. I'm just sharing my perspective. Now, the last way you could do this is refraining from ejaculation. And it's not to say that you're never going to do that ever in your entire life again, but it's realizing the power of that and the energy that you feel like you lost. After you finish, you feel tired, you laid back, you want to go to sleep. Think about if you didn't do that, you denying yourself a little bit of pleasure. But then when you wake up the next morning, me personally, I'm more full of life. I'm on the phone, I'm closing deals, I'm talking to people. I'm full of energy, passion. And it's not to say that that just completely goes away if I do release, but there's definitely a transfer of energy. And that's why it might be good for you to try out not releasing if you're a male. Now, you also have to be careful because if there's too much energy, you don't know how to handle it, you might act up. You might be in public and you can't even focus on the person in front of you saying, you just focus on that girl over there. Or you might, be in a situation and you might not be acting as you should be. You might not be a gentleman, which is very important. With great power comes great responsibility. So you have to understand how to handle that increase in energy that you're going to experience, and you have to have plans in place for when that energy becomes strong, etc. Now for women it's a little bit different. So for a man's energy increases like this. A man's energy goes like this. A man releases, it dips down, and then it goes up again. Every time a man releases, his energy dips. But theoretically, the energy can keep rising steadily, like monks when they meditate and they refrain from releasing their seed. Now, for women, their energy cycle is different because women have a period every single month. So every month, their energy is steadily rising, and then when they get their period, it dips. That's why when women have their period, they get tired, irritable, angry. They just want to sleep, eat chocolate. Just like how men, after they release, you want to go eat junk food, you want to sleep, you just kind of want to be left alone as a man. Now, the same thing is just the same thing. It's after a loss of energy, you're lethargic. Now, think about women when they react to sex. Women don't feel the same tired feeling as a man does after sex, even if they reach a climax. Now, this is getting into some intricacies here, but my point is that women have a different sort of cycle where they're going to go down in energy no matter what because their period, they lose so much blood. Think about how much blood and how much energy blood carries in the body itself. So with all that being said, what can you do as a woman if you're watching this and you want to harness and increase your sexual energy? You can be abstinent from sexual intercourse, and then what you're going to feel is an increase in energy. It's still going to affect you. You're still going to get an increase in energy even if you have that dip. You will feel more driven, more motivated. You feel like you have more spark in your eye. You have motivation. You might have more focus if you can control the energy and you can't let it get out of hand. The same thing with a guy. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is, given that you make a choice to retain your energy, whether it's your seed or you're refraining from actual sexual intercourse, how are you going to control the energy and make sure that it doesn't overwhelm you or get you into situations that you don't want to be in, where you end up acting impulsively, making decisions that you're going to regret, etc. So that's what's going to involve meditation on your sexual energy, which is basically training yourself to control reflect upon and not fall victim to temptation. Just like in the Bible says, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. It's a similar philosophy with this. Not that sexual desire in and of itself is evil, but it can lead you down paths that you may reflect on later in your life and you realize, wow, I shouldn't have gone down that path. If I just stayed here and focused on becoming an engineer, or if I just focused on developing my own business instead of, trying to get this person involved with me, or I wish I didn't have reckless intercourse and now I have a child in my life. Things of that nature. Improper allocation of this energy can put you down paths that you may not have wanted to go on if you were thinking with a clear mind, which is what you get when you meditate. And people's lives can be thrown off course by, just following how they feel. If you don't sit back and reflect and think about it, and think about the power that you have inside of yourself, then you might go astray from where you actually should have gone. Okay, so with all that being said, how do you actually meditate, and how do you focus yourself, and how do you channel this energy? Because energy is neither created nor destroyed, it just changes form. So let's say as a man, you have sexual intercourse and you release your energy. Let's say before the encounter, you were feeling so energetic, you were feeling you could talk to any girl. Or for a woman, you were just feeling completely lit up. You could go dance, you could go party, you were just on top of your game. But afterwards, you're more tired. A woman might be kind of just more nonchalant about life, not as focused, not as on point. And that's because the energy was not lost, but it transferred away from you into a different place, And so how can you avoid that transfer of energy outside of you, but keep it within yourself and make yourself better, make yourself smarter, faster, stronger, whatever goals you may have? So the first thing that I would start with is listening to some meditation sounds, whether that's like, water rushing over rocks in a creek, or whether it's sounds by someone like Jonathan Goldman. So if you go on Spotify or YouTube and search up Jonathan Goldman, he makes soundtracks that are specifically designed for this. So you can listen to that and then you can meditate. And what does meditating mean? It just means trying to clear your mind. Now, most people cannot clear their mind because they have thoughts bombarding them 24/7, 365. Oh, my best friend is here. I'm going to go out on Friday. What am I going to wear? All this noise, chatter in your mind must be silenced. And how do you do that? How do you get a clear mind even though you have all these things running in your head? One way you can do it is by just letting your mind run out. So you turn off all stimulation and you just sit and you let your mind run through everything until it's quiet. That's going to take a long time. Most of us don't have that amount of time. So what you can do when you're meditating, you turn on some sounds that you are soothed by, that are calming to you. And then you just breathe in and out through your nose. And you count 1, 1. As you breathe in, 1. As you breathe out, 1. You breathe in again, 2. Breathe out again, 2. I think you get the point. So close your eyes, listen to the sounds, and breathe in and breathe out and count each breath. First, try to get to 60 breaths. that you're counting, and the number is the only thing you're focusing on. As you're breathing and counting, don't let your mind focus on anything else. You might have thoughts that are intrusive try to slip into your head. You might have things that happened in your past, memories slipping into your head, trying to interrupt your flow. But just keep focusing on the number of your breath. If you focus and you keep repeating that number, the number of the breath that you're on in and out, you say it again and again, pretty soon you'll be at 60, and you slowly breathe out, open your eyes, and you realize that you actually just focused your mind on something for a prolonged period of time, and you will notice a sense of calm that has come over you. And if you don't feel that calm, then you have to keep trying again and again, and you have to increase the level of focus that you're obtaining, because it will come to you and you will notice a change in your mental state. But you just have to keep trying, keep your mind as focused as possible, really focus on the sounds that you're listening to as well, if that helps you. Ultimately, the goal here is to become the master of your domain. Sexual energy is the most base desire that fuels all life on earth, driving us to be better, driving us to increase our status. Sexual energy is what motivates people at a base level. If you really look at it, why do I want to get a Ferrari? Because other than the thrill of driving it, it may increase my status. What does increased status mean? Increased selection of mates. So that's not a hard and fast example, but thinking like that will show you how much sexuality and the energy behind it is a motivating force in people's lives. And that's why it's important to understand it, and that's why it's important to know how to harness it to your benefit. So the goal is to become the master of your domain. And how does one achieve mastery? How does one achieve confidence? That comes through understanding and learning. And once you learn, you understand. Once you understand something, you're confident about it. And after you have confidence and understanding and practice, then one can develop mastery over something, whether it's a practice or an art. So after you understand your mind, body, and soul, you'll just see that things happen and they go your way. You don't focus on the external world. You don't chase things. Things will come to you once you meditate, once you start reflecting on what really motivates you, once you start to harness energy that's inside you instead of always seeking for an outlet for it. If you're always seeking, you'll never really be satisfied. Fulfillment is going to come from inside you when you open your eyes from meditating for a significant period of time and you feel blissful, you feel peaceful. You realize, wow, I don't really need to go chase that bad chick over there who's working out. You don't need that. You already feel fulfillment. So that's a long way of me saying that it's important to be aware of your energy. If you want to increase it, you meditate, you breathe, you channel the energy throughout your body, and you just go for it. It's not really difficult. It's very simple. Just don't engage in sexual acts against yourself or involving other people. Try it out for 7 days, 10 days, 14 days. And then if you can cope with it, if you feel better, you will feel an increase in your well-being and your energy. Then keep going and look how your life changes. Look how things are positive in your life. And that's the end of my message for today.